What if I told you that the most important piece of safety gear you own, the one thing that's designed to keep you visible and safe, is also the number one reason you're going home empty-handed? It sounds crazy, I know, but today we're talking about your bright, colorful ice fishing suit. We're going to tackle a huge debate in the fishing community. Can your clothes actually spook fish through a foot of ice? I promise you, by the end of this video, you will look at your gear in a whole new light. We're going to uncover a hidden reason why some anglers consistently outfish others, and it has nothing to do with their lure or bait. So, let me ask you right now, before we even start, do you think a bright orange jacket can spook a fish in 20 feet of water? Let me know in the comments. I really want to see what you think. For years, we've been told the same thing. What happens above the ice stays above the ice. The fish are way down there. They can't see you. They don't care what you're wearing. The most important thing is safety, and for good reason. A bright orange or lime green jacket is easy to spot in a snowstorm or, in a worst-case scenario, in the water. So we all bought the gear. We wear it religiously. It makes sense, right? This belief is so ingrained that questioning it feels like you're questioning common sense. But here's the thing about fishing. Common sense isn't always common. Sometimes the deeper truths are literally deeper, right under our feet. We get stuck in our ways, doing what we've always done, and we blame a slow day on the weather, the barometric pressure, or just bad luck, never once looking at our own silhouette against the ice. Let's start with the most common argument against this idea. People say, fish can't see you up there. They imagine the fish's world as a dark, murky place where the only thing that matters is the lure right in front of its face. This is the first myth we need to bust. The world under the ice is not pitch black. Think about it. Light is incredibly powerful. It travels through space, through our atmosphere, and it absolutely penetrates water and ice. Sure, it's dimmer down there, but it's more like a heavily overcast day than a dark night. The fish's entire world is illuminated from one direction, above. Their eyes are perfectly adapted to this environment, designed to pick out food, and more importantly, to spot danger from the surface. They spend their whole lives looking up, watching for threats. That's a crucial fact we often forget when we're comfortable and warm in our gear up top. The surface is their sky, and we are the giants walking on it. Now let's talk about the ice and snow itself. The condition of the ice surface changes everything. Let's imagine scenario 1. A foot of solid black ice with a thick 6-inch blanket of fluffy snow on top. In this case, that snow cover is your best friend. It acts like a giant lampshade, a diffuser. It scatters the sunlight in every direction, creating a very even, soft, ambient light underwater. When the light is scattered like that, it's much harder for a fish to pick out a specific shape or shadow on the surface. The snow cover basically camouflages your presence. On days like this, you can probably get away with wearing a bright circus tent, and the fish might not care as much. This is why some fishermen will swear up and down that color doesn't matter because they've had great days while wearing bright clothes. They just don't realize the snow was doing all the work for them, hiding their mistakes. We don't always get to fish on a perfect blanket of snow, do we? Now let's switch to scenario 2, which is far more common for many of us. Imagine that same foot of ice, but it's clear black ice. Or maybe it has just a light dusting of snow, or it's been windswept and polished. This is a completely different ballgame. On clear ice, sunlight penetrates directly and powerfully. It's not scattered, it's focused. Now the underside of the ice becomes a window, not a perfectly clear window like glass, but more like a frosted bathroom window. You can't see perfect detail, but you can absolutely see light, color, and most importantly, shapes and movement. This is where your bright clothing goes from being a safety feature to a giant flashing neon sign that says, "Danger, Predator," above. The fish below aren't stupid. They are creatures of instinct, and their instinct screams at them when a large, unnatural shape appears in their sky. It's a survival mechanism honed over thousands of years. Here's the real kicker, the central point of this whole discussion. It's not necessarily the color orange or yellow that the fish is identifying and getting scared of. It's the contrast. Fish are masters at detecting contrast. That's how they find their food, a small, dark bug against a slightly lighter background, a minnow that flashes a little differently from the water around it. Now put yourself in their position. You're a perch looking up. The underside of the ice is a bright white ceiling. Suddenly a huge dark shape appears. That's you. Any solid dark color will create a silhouette. But what happens when that shape is a brilliant fluorescent orange? It doesn't just create a dark silhouette. It creates a blob of unnatural, intense color that contrasts sharply with the white ceiling of the ice. It's like the difference between seeing a hawk in the sky versus seeing a bright red drone. Both are threats, but one is way more alarming and out of place. Let's dig a little deeper into this idea of contrast versus silhouette. Imagine you're standing on clear ice on a sunny day. Your body, no matter what you're wearing, is going to block the sun and cast a shadow. A dark jacket, say black or dark grey, will create a simple, dark silhouette. It looks more natural. It's just a dark spot against a bright background, similar to a log, a shadow from a cloud or another natural feature. The fish might notice it, but it's a familiar type of shape. Now, put on that bright safety orange jacket. On a bright day, the sun doesn't just get blocked by it. The light actually passes through the material and makes it glow. From below, you're not just a dark silhouette anymore. You are a giant, glowing orange blob. This is profoundly unnatural in the fish's world. Nothing in their environment glows orange like that. It triggers an immediate flight response. It's an unmistakable signal of something alien and dangerous. To really drive this home, picture this common scene on the ice. There are two fishermen out on a lake with clear ice, maybe 50 yards apart. One guy is decked out head to toe in old school, dark green or brown insulated gear. He looks like part of the landscape. The other guy is wearing a brand new top-of-the-line suit in brilliant blaze orange. Both are using the same bait, fishing the same depth. The guy in the dark gear is quietly pulling up perch after perch. The guy in the orange suit hasn't had a bite in 2 hours. He's getting frustrated, so he starts moving around a lot. He walks to a new hole, scrapes the ice, checks his gear. And with every movement, that giant orange shape is dancing and shifting across the fish's ceiling. The fish in a 10 or 20-foot radius around him are either frozen in fear or have already bolted for deeper water. He's not just fishing his one hole, he's spooking his entire area of the lake. And that brings us to movement. The problem is magnified 100 times by movement. Fish are incredibly sensitive to motion above them. It's their primary danger signal. A stationary object can eventually be ignored, but a moving object is always a potential threat. And let's go back to our angler in the bright orange suit. When he stands perfectly still, he's a bright, unnatural blob. When he moves, he becomes a giant, flashing, moving, unnatural blob. Every time he fidgets, reaches for his thermos, or walks to check a tip-up, he's sending massive danger signals to everything below. His shadow and his color glow are sweeping across the bottom of the lake. The guy in the muted, dark clothing can get away with a lot more subtle movement because his silhouette blends in. He doesn't draw the same level of immediate panicked attention. He is simply less intrusive to the underwater world. This is a game of stealth, even on a wide open lake. So what does the science say about what fish can actually see? Well, fish vision is complex, but we know a few things for sure. Most freshwater fish we target, like walleye, perch, and trout, have color vision. They have cone cells in their eyes, just like we do, that are sensitive to different wavelengths of light. In fact, many species see reds, oranges, and yellows particularly well. Why? Because those are common colors in their prey and in their environment during different times of day, like sunrise and sunset. So the idea that they are colorblind is completely false. They are not only capable of seeing your bright orange jacket, their eyes might even be specifically tuned to be extra sensitive to that exact part of the color spectrum. We use bright orange and chartreuse on our lures for a reason, right? Because they are highly visible underwater. Why would we assume that same high visibility doesn't work against us when we're wearing it? Let's talk about water depth, because this factor is absolutely critical. The effect of your clothing color is most extreme in shallow water. Let's say you're fishing for perch or crappies in 5 to 15 feet of water. At that depth, a lot of light is still reaching the bottom. The fish are much closer to you, the monster on the surface. Your every move, every shadow, every unnatural color is right there in their face. It's overwhelming. In this situation, wearing bright, high-contrast clothing is probably the single biggest mistake you can make. You are actively scaring away the very fish you're trying to catch. I have personally seen this time and time again. Anglers fishing in a shallow weed bed in bright gear get nothing, while someone in camo a short distance away is catching fish. It's not a coincidence. It's a direct cause and effect. If you primarily fish shallow, this tip alone could completely change your success rate. Okay, so what about deep water? This is where many people think it stops mattering. You're fishing for lake trout or walleye in 30, 40, or even 50 feet of water. Surely they can't see your jacket from that far down, right? The answer is yes and no. They probably can't make out the specific color orange at that depth because water filters out longer wavelengths of light like red and orange first. However, they can still see the shape, they can still see the contrast. A bright object might appear more white or light grey against the ceiling of the ice, but it's still a highly visible, high-contrast object. It's still an unnatural shape moving around in their sky. So while the specific scary orange colour effect is diminished, the unnatural moving predator effect is still very much in play. It might be less of a factor than in the shallows, but to assume it has zero impact is a big mistake. It's still a piece of the puzzle. Now I can already hear the comments, but I was wearing my bright red snowmobile suit last weekend and I caught my limit. Of course you did. This isn't a magical never catch a fish again rule. There are always other factors at play. Maybe you were fishing on a day with heavy snow cover, which, as we discussed, hides you. Maybe the fish were in a super aggressive feeding frenzy and they would have hit a bare hook. Maybe you were fishing so deep that the effect was minimal. Or maybe, and this is the most likely scenario, you caught the dumb, aggressive fish, but you spooked 2 or 3 other curious, wary fish for everyone that you caught. Fishing is not about the fish you catch. Success is defined by the fish you didn't spook, the ones that came to check out your lure but turned away at the last second because something just didn't feel right. You never even knew they were there. This is the core concept, the spook factor. When we talk about bright clothes, we're not saying you will get 100% skunked every time. We're talking about percentages. We're talking about the fish that you never get a chance to catch. Picture a wary old walleye. It sees your lure dancing down there, and it's interested. It starts to swim over, but its eyes are also scanning its surroundings, especially upwards. It detects a strange, bright, shifting shape far above. Its survival instinct, honed over a decade of avoiding eagles, otters, and fishermen, kicks in. It decides, nope, not worth the risk, and just fades away. You never get the bite. You never even mark it on your flasher. You have no idea that your jacket just cost you the biggest fish of the day. This happens way more often than any of us would like to admit. It's the invisible price we pay for high visibility. So what's the solution? It's actually pretty simple. When you're buying ice fishing gear, look beyond the flashy, bright colors. Opt for more subdued, natural tones. Think about the environments you fish in. Dark grays, muted blues, forest greens, browns, and even whites, or camouflage patterns, are all excellent choices. These colors help you blend into the background. They create a much less jarring silhouette against the bright ice. You want to look like a rock or a tree stump, not a traffic cone. You want to minimize your presence and your impact on the underwater world. The goal is to become an invisible predator, not a loud, obnoxious visitor. Your gear should help you disappear, not announce your arrival to every fish within 100 yards. Think stealth, always think stealth. But what if you already own a super expensive, super warm, but super bright suit? You don't have to go out and buy a whole new setup. You can mitigate the issue with your behavior. The number one rule is to minimize your movement. When you get to your spot, get set up, and then stay put as much as possible. Try to be slow and deliberate with your actions. Avoid pacing back and forth. Every step you take is a potential warning signal. If you can, sit on a bucket or a chair. This lowers your profile and makes you a smaller, less threatening shape. The simple act of sitting still can dramatically reduce how much you spook the fish below. You're essentially trading your color camouflage for movement camouflage. It's a compromise, but it's a smart one that can definitely help you catch more fish. There is, of course, one perfect solution to this entire problem: the ice shelter. An ice shanty, or a hub-style shelter, is the ultimate form of camouflage. When you step inside and close the doors, you completely remove your silhouette from the equation. You block out all the light from above your holes. Now, the only thing the fish sees is the darkness of your shelter's interior. This is a massive advantage. It's why sight fishing is even possible. It's why people often find the bite picks up as soon as they get settled inside a shelter. They haven't changed their lure or their location. They've simply disappeared. They've taken themselves completely out of the visual equation for the fish. If you're a serious ice angler, investing in a good shelter is probably the best thing you can do to counteract the problem of visibility, regardless of what color coat you're wearing inside it. Now let's think about how this applies to different types of fishing. If you're a hole hopper, constantly moving and drilling, this is especially critical for you. Every time you approach a new hole, you're approaching potentially undisturbed fish. If you walk up in a bright suit, you might be spooking the most aggressive fish before your lure even hits the water. For hole hoppers, wearing muted colors and trying to use a stealthy approach can make a world of difference. Creep up to the hole. Try not to stand directly over it right away. Give the area a moment to settle down. On the other hand, if you're the type of angler who sets up a bunch of tip-ups and then sits back and waits, your initial setup is the most critical phase. Once you're sitting still, the impact is less, but the damage might have already been done when you were noisily walking around setting your lines. Don't just take my word for it. Try this experiment yourself. It's simple. The next time you go out with a buddy, have one person wear the brightest gear they own and the other wear the darkest, most muted colors they have. Fish near each other using the same techniques and baits, especially in shallow to mid-depth water on a day with clear ice. You have to be honest with the variables. Same lure, same line, same depth. I am willing to bet that 9 times out of 10, the angler in the stealth clothing will outfish the angler in the safety clothing. The results might not be immediate, but over the course of a few hours, a clear pattern will emerge. The only way to truly believe something in fishing is to see it with your own eyes. I challenge you to prove me wrong. I think you'll be surprised by what you discover about your own fishing spot. We also need to consider the species of fish. Some fish are definitely more sensitive and wary than others. Big, pressured crappies and perch are notoriously spooky. They've seen every lure and they've learned to be cautious. For these fish, your silhouette and clothing color can be the factor that makes or breaks your day. The same goes for clear water trout. They are visual predators with excellent eyesight, and they are not forgiving. On the other hand, a species like a northern pike might be less concerned. They are aggressive apex predators and might not be as easily spooked by a shape on the surface. But even with aggressive fish, why take the chance? Why introduce a negative variable into your fishing if you don't have to? The goal is always to control every factor that you possibly can. Your clothing is one of the easiest factors to control. Let's reevaluate the safety argument for a moment. Is it possible to be both safe and stealthy? Absolutely. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. Many modern fishing suits are now coming out in colors like charcoal with integrated reflective safety strips. You can also wear a muted suit and simply have a small, bright piece of gear with you like a hat or a safety flag that you can display if the weather turns bad or if there's a lot of snowmobile traffic. Another great option is the oversuit or coveralls approach. Wear your warm, bright gear for the walk out onto the ice and then slip on a lightweight pair of white or camo coveralls once you get to your spot. This gives you the best of both worlds, high visibility when you're traveling and high stealth when you're fishing. It's a simple, extra step that shows you're thinking like a serious predator. So when we bring it all together, what's the final verdict? It's not just one thing. It's a combination of factors: the clarity of the ice, the presence or absence of snow, the depth of the water, the species you're targeting, and your amount of movement all play a huge role. But the color and contrast of your clothing is the thread that runs through all of them. On any given day, it can range from being a minor factor to being the single most important reason you are not catching fish. It's a game of percentages and reducing negative variables. By choosing to wear more subtle, natural colors, you are removing a huge potential negative from your presentation. You are giving yourself a better chance on every single drop. It's about tipping the odds ever so slightly in your favor, and as we all know, in fishing, an inch is a mile. A slight edge is everything. So there you have it. We've gone from the simple question of does my jacket color matter to a deep dive into light, contrast, fish biology, and on-ice strategy. The big takeaway, the Hawadeta Poverot moment, isn't that bright colors are bad. It's that the contrast you create against the fish's ceiling is what spooks them. On a bright, clear day, a dark suit creates a simple shadow, but a bright suit creates an unnatural, glowing blob that screams danger. This single idea could completely change your approach to gearing up for a day on the ice. It's not about throwing out your expensive gear. It's about understanding how the fish see you and adapting your behavior or your outfit to be less of a threat. It's about shifting from just being present on the ice to actively becoming part of the environment. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this one. I know it was a lot of information, but I hope it was helpful. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, do me a favor and hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. Now for the big question, after hearing all this, are you going to rethink your ice fishing wardrobe? Or do you still think this is all just overthinking it? Let me know your honest opinion in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear the debate.